How's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation, time to get creative, time to get that imagination all revved up, and it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Simon Bisley. And if you're not familiar with his work, check right over here. He has worked for DC, Marvel. He's worked on, of course, Conan, as you can tell. I'm a huge Conan fan, so I always try to throw that in when I can. But he's done some great work. I really love his coloring. He's got spot-on anatomy and a really great imagination as well. I love these kind of bizarre creatures that he comes up with. There's another one in here that's this is Skeleton King, I think, from Diablo. Love that game as well. If you're not familiar with my love for Blizzard, you probably know that as well by now. But yeah, like this one, it's like a male-female spider creature thing. I thought that was really inventive. I'd never seen anything quite like that. So it's really cool. And then some great animal anatomy as well, and great posing here, and a nice layout throughout too. It really focuses the eye on the important parts, and you can tell like the coloring too is really kind of, you got your muted kind of whites and darks around here, and the wolves all have kind of a similar color and they're kind of muted, but then you get this like red orange that really pops in there to keep your eye focused there. That was a really interesting color too. But anyways, I wanted to share a quote with you guys that I found of his, and that was, it wasn't really taught, it's all learn it, so much as you just do it, and you get better the more you do it. I thought that was really important, that if you can't afford school, or you can't afford to go to certain classes that you want to learn something, don't worry about it. I mean, chances are you can afford a little bit of time, if it's something you're really passionate, to go to the library and learn a little bit of information, and then go home and practice that, and then go a couple weeks later and learn a little bit more and really actually practice that. And the people who actually do something with their passions are the ones who go somewhere. The people who learn a lot about it and then just talk a lot about it usually aren't going as far. It's not just talking about it and knowing about it, it's applying that knowledge and working towards it every day. And I think that's a big goal of trying to do these videos and keep a consistent base too, is to not only does it help keep me accountable as well, but helps to set up a nice template for you guys to see that it's important to continue to put forth effort every day. And if you're scrolling through your YouTube feeds, and every time, even if you don't watch one of my videos or something, but you see that there's another one out there, hopefully it helps to encourage you guys and inspire you guys to know to keep going on your creative journeys and to work on it every day. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into some animation. This is the Rabbit rig. It's a free rig you can grab over at Creative Crash. And if you're not familiar with the videos, what we'll do is we'll give ourselves about 48 frames or 2 seconds of animation. I go off and I find a different rig that I've never used before. It's a free resource for you guys to play around with. And we kind of see where we go from there. A little bit of over the shoulder, kind of hang out with me while I animate. A little bit of instruction, a little bit of kind of talking through the process. Sometimes we get off on weird tangents as well, but hopefully in about an hour's time or so we have something that we can look at and hopefully looks alright animated. So that being said, let's go ahead and get in here. And we are using Autodesk Maya 2014. And as always, there will be a link in the description below to more stuff about Simon Bisley, a link to this rig, and a link to more stuff about Autodesk Maya, as well as I always link to a few of what I consider basically the animation Bibles. So definitely check those out as well if you're still learning, or if you've learned a lot but want to push yourself forward, maybe there's one of those books that you haven't checked out as well. And as always, if you guys ever have suggestions or critiques or anything, feel free to let me know down in the comments below, or books that have really helped you, or any of that kind of stuff, because we're all learning together and growing together. I'm never going to say that I know all the answers to anything about this stuff, but rather that I'm just here to help you guys feel like you have someone working alongside you, with you in that art journey, and also to hopefully inspire you guys to keep going, or to find other people who will inspire you that you guys can look up as well. So let's go ahead and we'll just do a little walk cycle with this one. I feel like yesterday we did something a little bit different, so let's go back to kind of what we typically do here is usually a walk cycle. pushed out belly. Yeah, let's push that belly out. Also, we're going to have to push the weight forward then to offset that. And we're going to pull it down a little bit so that foot stays on the ground. And we're going to have to tip the head up here. Neck. Where's that the head? Let's see. Maybe we can just raise the head up a little bit here. Whoa, that doesn't look as good. We want to try to avoid the fact that the head's sinking in there. So let's see how we can get past that. Maybe it's going to be kind of a shoulder thing. We can bring those shoulders down. Sort of helps here. We might have to just do less rotate. Overall there. Yeah, let's check here. Let's grab both of those. It's starting to be a little better. Maybe we just have to keep tweaking until we find something a little better. That's almost workable. Still a little bit of deformation there, but I feel like that's a little bit better. And we just want to create an interesting kind of storytelling pose to start off with here. Maybe we'll do something like that. I like the kind of more confident sway to the belly though, where he's pushing it out rather than hunched over. I feel like it gives him more of that. I like the idea of the like confident fat person. I like that ideal better than the kind of. Let's see, we got something going on that shoulder. Let's see where we got to roll back to. There we go. See how that shoulder was going. And that's not to say I'm not trying to be demeaning or anything to anyone, but rather the way that I like when a big person carries themselves with like that. I enter the room and I'm big and I'm large and I'm in charge, rather than a lot of you'll see people who carry extra weight usually tend to be more hunched over and have bad posture because their body's trying to find a more comfortable way to sit and rest. But in a lot of usually you see it in more confident, bigger people. They carry themselves with just a really great demeanor and they have good posture, but they just have that big round belly out in front, and I kind of like that kind of a meme, I guess it would be, of a bigger person. I think it's adds more character, or a different type of character. So it's still not really working. So we'll have to kind of tone it down, just so that we can just tone it down here. Can't do as much there. Let's zero this out, figure out where this is coming from. Because maybe we're fighting something that we don't really need to. Maybe it was always there. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. I'm just reverting back to an original version that we had there to see if we can still get that same thing but without that deformation. So we'll just start off a little bit lighter. Same idea that we're really going with here, but I'll just tweak it a little bit more slowly so you can make sure I'm trying to avoid that. Pull this back, and grab this foot, pull that back, this foot, pull that. Another thing that we kind of want to do that usually bigger people do is have a wider gait when they walk, so their legs are usually out a little bit further. And it's not all of them, but that's kind of a good way to help distribute weight for when someone's a little bit bigger. Okay, starting to get a little bit of that deformation here, but not quite so much. Let's see if we can do it here. Maybe we just won't be able to get as much of that as we want. I really like that idea though. I feel like that might work if we do more of a side view. Or even a upward, forward view here. Let's bring the eyes forward over there. It's not as bad. Okay, I'll rotate that down. Bring those arms out a little bit more. Probably just jut the head forward a little bit more. That would work. Could have done that, I guess, all along. Then we can probably pull that belly out even more then. Yeah, that'll work. I'll just move it. I usually don't like doing translation really in heads. I usually like trying to keep it with just the rotation, but if we gotta do that to get what we need, then gotta do what we gotta do. And let's go ahead and rotate that arm back. Rotate this one forward a little bit more. And let's pull it out a little bit more here. Make sure we just have nerve curves, nerve surfaces, polygon selected. And let's go ahead and pull those up and back. Let's go and slick it back. Kind of like a mob boss with that big greasy slick back hair kind of idea here. And then pull that foot back a little bit more. Pull that one forward. Bring the whole body forward a little bit more. Okay, I feel like that's a fairly good place to start. Let's go ahead and rotate that hand back a little bit and get a little bit. I feel like these are fairly generic but okay finger poses to start off with. I like it when you get a rig and they already kind of give you more than just a really generic T-pose. They start giving you just a hint of character already in the rig. If you're not familiar with the T-poses, when you open a rig usually in Maya, it'll be like, I can't really show you in here because but they do like a straight out arms and head straight forward, and really it's just like a T. So arms are out, legs are straight down, and there's really no life hardly in the rig at all. But of course I understand that that's why you want to model it that way, and then it's more of a default place to start off with. But I usually like, at least in the hands and stuff, when they give them more of an interesting hand pose to start off with. Because usually it's just a better place to start off with than just completely flat and neutral. Gives you a little starting off point. So I always appreciate that. Curl that thumb up a little bit here. And again, we're just kind of creating that generic, or not generic, but storytelling pose that we can use to jumpstart the rest of our animation. Okay, so let's go ahead and save our file here. Again, we are using Autodesk Maya 2014 for this guy, and a little bit longer before we really got started animating for this one, but I feel like we got a fairly good starting pose here. We'll probably do more of a 3/4 camera, I'm thinking. This one. Just go ahead and grab everything and go to frame 0 and set our first key here. Let's go to 12. Let's go and bring that guy back there. Go to this one. just want to set up the feet and the hips first for like the foundational stuff for our walk. And we're doing a cycle here rather than doing more of a feature animation style. So cycle would be like a loop that then you can overlay into a character for like video game animation. And again, I'm sure all of you guys already know that, but just in case there's someone who's kind of new to the channel, I like to sometimes break things down a little bit more than always. And if ever you have any questions or wonder, or if I just kind of gloss over something, definitely let me know down in the comments below, so that I make sure that I can be more clear with that, or go into detail, or send me a message, or whatever it is. And let's go the other way around, actually. Let's go Window, Animation Editors, Graph Editor. I'm going to stick our Translate Ys. Instead of going up with them on the passing position, let's kind of try going down with them. For some reason, I feel like that maybe it's a little bit better for this character here. So instead of going up, let's see. Maybe that's what we were starting to do anyways. Let's try flipping it. Yeah, I want to go down in the passing position. I feel like that's a little better. And let's go ahead and exaggerate that a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and raise the initial up position and lower the down. So let's see. I think we could probably take the translate Z on the feet here, which is like the forward and back movement, and just universally push it forward a little bit more. So let's see how that would look. Okay, we just want to titch it up, so let's see. That feels a little better. Just felt like the feet were going back a little too far. Especially this one, for some reason, feels like they go back really far, so let's still adjust that a little bit more. Let's go and see that now. Okay, and let's go ahead and get those passing positions laid in here. And that's where the feet are gonna raise up to pass the other one and go back down. Okay, so we're gonna get this guy, we're gonna raise it up, and then it'll land back down, and it'll raise it up. And obviously the feet are slipping on here, which I see, but the reason that we're okay with the feet slipping on this versus more of a feature animation where we would definitely lock in and plant the foot down is because this is a cycle. So the character would be manipulated by the user playing the game throughout the world, and the animation would just be overlaid on top of that rather than just having the character default move around like a chit or a meeple on a board game. Pawn, or however you want to say the chit or meeple usually is like in Sorry, the little piece. Forget that sometimes I talk about things that maybe everyone isn't familiar with. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that. So, for some reason this foot feels like it's going up higher, even though they're pretty close to even there. So let's go ahead and just universally lower the feet, the steps a little bit more. Let's compare. That one's about like that. Yeah, see? This one's a little bit higher. And sometimes you'll notice that for whatever reason, and again, I'm not ever going to proclaim that I'm a rigger at all. Something that I've definitely studied and messed around with, but definitely would need another probably at least 6 months before I would say I was even of hardcore studying before I would say I even begin to understand rigging in any in-depth method. But sometimes you'll notice in different rigs the way that like one foot is set up is similar to the way the other foot is set up, but they vary slightly in the amount that like adjusting a tangent will be. Okay, and now let's get back into the hips. Let's do some sway here. We're gonna lean the hips over the planted foot there, and over here over that planted foot. And the big thing that's gonna be fun mess around with in this rig, once we get around to doing some more polished stuff rather than just the fundamentals, we'll be playing around and seeing if we can get some good life into that belly. We really want to play that up. Let's go and see that here. Maybe a little less. Move that down a little bit more. Okay, and let's go ahead and do a little rotate Z, so we tilt to favor, and we can always offset this in the chest in a little bit as well. And we go back in. Getting a little bit of lag, sorry about that, and let's go ahead and reduce that a little bit more, and also even it up so that we don't get one side being favored over the other. Let's go and see that now. Okay, and we'll go ahead and do a little bit of rotate Y to favor the front planted foot so the hip would lean in towards that foot that was more forward, and then other way again, and there again, and again, and go back again. Okay, bring that down a little bit more. Let's go and see that now. Okay, feeling alright, but I feel like for some reason we could up and down isn't enough. It seemed to be fine before we added some twist and sway, but now we're kind of losing it there. So there we go. Built that back in. Amped it up a little bit. And that's what you'll have to, that's part of animation too. Just because, like if I mess with the way that a hand moves and then I go and I move on to doing some facial expressions or doing something in the hips or anything. And that doesn't mean that just because I got the hand to a really good point half an hour ago, but then I went and did this other stuff, that the hand's still going to work now. So you always have to be aware that you got to kind of watch your animation. I used to, that seems redundant, but I know when I was first learning that I didn't watch my animation as much as I animated, and now I feel like watching it and flipping through it and letting it play is almost half of animating to me these days, where you do some actual animation, then you watch it a few times, then you do a little more, then you watch it a few times. Before, when I was first learning, it was all about, okay, let's go animate, then go to the next room, animate, then go to the next room, then animate, and I find that I hadn't really watched my animation for 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever, because I was too busy animating. But animation is about movement. It's not about a single stock image. So sometimes, in order to get the feel of something, maybe that one frame won't be as polished as you want, but the feel of the overall shot will be more important. So I definitely challenge you guys to stop animating and watch your animation, then go back to animating and get a good workflow like that, because I know for myself it really helped me to be able to see things better and see things in movement better. But a lot of it's learning the program, and that stuff probably is just a natural progression as anyone learns something. As they learn, you have to spend time learning the skills. Like if you're painting, you gotta spend time understanding how your brushes work and what types of colors to use and all that stuff before you can really get into composition and layout and form and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm not really a painter, so illustrating, concept art, that kind of stuff. I'm not ever going to claim that I'm a great painter at all. Color is one of those things that I'd love to be able to have another lifetime to study. really drawn to illustration most of the time. Speaking of which, probably another year, 6 months, and I'll have my couple of illustration books out. I'd like to do them faster, but don't want to burn out completely. But that's something to look forward to. I'm probably more than halfway done with what I've been working on for a while, so keep your eyes and ears open for that. If you're interested, of course. But hopefully you will be, because I'm trying to do stuff that sparks creativity in other people and isn't just about, oh, look what I did, look at this, but rather is about the lifestyle and like a creative lifestyle and trying to build that need to always be creating and building and seeing things differently and not, I don't know, it's more of a philosophical, personal thing, so I guess it's not important here. So let's look, we're just doing a little bit of rotation in the belly here, and then we'll offset that in the chest instead of in the hips. So I'll take this guy, it's a little bit of like compression here, and we'll rotate it forward. Sometimes I realize that I get into talking about a subject and I just go off and animate, not really describing as much as but I think that just kind of varies day to day, whether my brain is just stuck on one particular subject or whether it's thinking, and you guys will probably notice that in your workflows as well, where sometimes you're like thinking about drawing this particular line and other times you're thinking about Cecil the lion and your drawing just kind of pours out of you. And I think there's validity to mastering both of those things, where you can focus, as we've talked about before and I've mentioned before in the Richard Williams Animator Survival Kit. He talks to Milt Kahl, one of the all-time best animators ever, and he talks to him about like what kind of music he listens to when he's working, and Milt Kahl's reply is something to the effect of, and it's a 2-page spread drawn out by Richard Williams, so obviously it's important, 2 whole pages to get that one idea across, is that he's not smart enough to, and again, this is, and I'm probably not getting the quote exactly right, go read it for yourself. Do it. I challenge you. It's an awesome book. Something that I should read even more and more. But the idea was that Milt Kahl, who is arguably regarded as at least top 5 of actual animators ever, says that he's not smart enough to listen to music and animate at the same time. And I think it's not necessarily about always being in that mentality, but getting that idea across of you need to be able to learn to focus. And some people focus with music. Sometimes it helps other people focus. Other people focus in silence. But I think you need to learn to hone your craft so well that if you normally work with music, you need to be able to work without it. And if you normally work without music, then you need to learn to work with it so that you can always be functioning at a high level of productivity and creativity, no matter the circumstances. I think for myself is kind of the takeaway from that. At least that's how it works for me. Let me know if you guys are different, if you have to listen to like a certain type of music when you animate, or if you have to animate in silence, or whatever creative medium that you're working in as well. But I mentioned musically, and I've been in a couple bands and everything, but I've never really done like studio work or anything. But I imagine musically, like, you probably can't listen to a lot of other music while producing music. That would probably be difficult. So that might be one of those times where you really do need, but it's not silence in that case, it's just particular sounds that you have to listen to. But again, I don't know. That'll be interesting to ask a music producer. If they can have like one ear that's listening to like a podcast or the music that they want to listen to, and the other ear is like producing the album that they want. That would be a different kind of brainwave loop that I'm familiar with, so I wonder how that would be. But I imagine once you get so comfortable with producing music that you probably get bored just producing one thing at a time. I don't know. maybe not. Alright, there's my call out to you music producers. Let me know if that's something you've ever done, or if something you ever would do, or if that compromises your method or whatever. And again, I'm sure it varies from one person to another as well. And we're just doing a little bit of swinging the arms here. Drag it back here, push it forward there, drag it back here, bring it forward. Let's go and see that now. Starting to come together. I really want to change the expression on his face, so let's go ahead and do that now. I realize that I'm in the middle of the arm, but this I want to get more of a surly expression to this guy, so let's see if we can't get that. Go ahead and bring that, get the mouth in motion. Lower lip. So just tweak that mouth in motion a little bit. Don't want him really grumpy, but just kind of surly. Let's give him maybe an underbite here too. That means we'd have to adjust the lower lip here a little bit more. And mouth here. Okay, not that. Let's try to look at that motion a little bit more. I'm going to go with the 3/4 straight on. The face feels a little flat, but if we move to like a 3/4 view, it feels a little better. And let's try to go into the eyes here. Just trying to get a little more expressiveness in this face here. I don't know, that feels a little sad for some reason, so let's see if we can't tweak that a little more. Bring that down a little bit more. Do something more like that. I always like to have the eyelids kind of touch the eye as well. You gotta be careful of making them look sleepy. If you do too much lid, sometimes they can look sleepy, and if you do too much open, they can just look crazed, or you can't really direct that. Don't look as focused. So it's always kind of a little bit of a. But that feels pretty gruff. You said that kind of like a big mobster bunny kind of stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and save that, and let's get back into the hand we were doing here. Just wanted to get that expression. Sometimes, and maybe you guys are like this, I try to kind of be a little formulaic with how I approach things, just so that I make sure that I touch things and don't forget. You know, when you draw all the time, it's good to have kind of, or animate all the time, it's good to kind of have like a base formula for how you approach a shot or how you approach an illustration or anything. That way you kind of can rough everything out fairly quickly, or kind of get a good roadmap for where you want to go. But every once in a while, you know, that really non-structured part of the artistic brain, and artistic, no, didn't say autistic. Sometimes though, same thing. It just really is like, nope, you got to focus on this. You got to focus on this. You got to focus on this. And I think you kind of have to listen to that too. But just be aware of where you are, where you were, so you can go back to it. Especially in animation, because if you forget certain parts, don't want to do that. to school and stuff, every once in a while I'd have a classmate, and everyone's learning at different speeds, but it was something that always kind of stuck out to me. Is you would see somebody who would do like great facial animation, really spot on, but then they wouldn't animate like the body at all. And I realized that people have different workflows and everything, but to me, that's difficult kind of to watch, because you get all this expression and everything in the face, but the rest of it's just completely dead. Or they would animate like everything, but forget to animate like an arm, and so like the rest of the body would be moving, and that one would just. So I always try, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be polished, but it just sticks out like a sore thumb to me. At least if you don't get everything, at least somewhat, try and sprinkle in a little bit of movement in everything, so that there aren't parts that just die off in your animation. Okay, so let's try and get these. Let's go about 2 frames behind what we have. Now let's focus more on the down than up. So let's neuter the rotate up here on these ears. We're just adding a little bit of bounce here. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and look at this belly here. Let's go to 9, and we'll have it translate over there. We'll go 12 frames from there. We'll have it swing over the other side. And swing over again, and then start to go back. Let's get that little bit of delay in the belly. And just maybe a little bit less of that. Even it up a little bit more. Yeah, let's go down there. Up there, down there, up there, down there, up there, and again. I'm sure we'll adjust that a bit better here. Put a little bit of bounce in that belly. Let's go look at that now. There we go. Feels pretty good. Okay, let's go ahead and save that here. And I haven't really talked about it, I guess, for a little while, but you know, I was talking earlier kind of about how bigger people carry themselves and everything. I mean, I used to weigh a bit more than I do now, so it's good to pull from your own life experience. So you can tell I still have awful posture. But it's always good to notice the world around you and to study that, because, you know, like if I go to the store to go buy some groceries or whatever, like I tend to watch other people walk. You know, that's what I'm kind of focused on, and then I'll forget what I want to buy, and that's a whole other part as well. But I watch how other people move and how other people walk, and even if I don't end up using it for animation, I try to use it for like different posing ideas for characters and that kind of stuff. And I think it's important to cultivate that mindset where you're always thinking about your work, and not in a way where like, oh, I'm a workaholic, but more that you just have this mindset of that's who you are, and that's where you are, and that's what you want to do with that. And I think it's important, you know, I always watch, especially anybody whose body type is more of an extreme, like a bigger person or a smaller person or a tall person or a short person. I always am interested in how they move, in particular, because it's usually it is different from anyone else, because they have different parts of their body to address than, you know, someone with little tiny feet probably walks quicker or faster, or, you know, kind of walks on the, whether they walk on the tip of their toes or whether heals more, any of that kind of stuff. It's just always good to keep that your mind open for where your next creative idea might come, or where you might need that information to pull from later. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw a blink in here while I'm thinking about it. So we'll set that there. There's the lids. I always like to kind of overshoot before I go to a blink, so open the eyes a little bit more. And again, this is probably way too much, but I'm just gonna kind of pull it in here and then tweak it up in the graph editor. But blinks always help to keep the face alive. I've noticed. Do a little bit on the mouth and a blink, and other than that, it at least gives you a good place to start with for facial animation, and at least it like makes the face feel believable. Doesn't feel so stiff. You don't have to do a ton of facial animation on body mechanic stuff, but I always like to do a little bit of it. Okay, something's going on here. It's a little funky. Let's go just to bottoms here. Actually, let's go. I don't want to open so high, so let's take that, move that to about 12. And take 6, bring that to about 28. And ease into that a little bit more. So let's go and see that now. Usually, blinks can be a little bit faster, but I wanted to kind of keep them closed a little bit more. So we want to have at least 2 to 3 frames where they're closed if you want the blink to actually like be a noticeable blink rather than just you know, like if it's an eye dart, have them start here, blink over, blink back. That's a quick one. But if you want it to be like a blink where you want the audience to feel it, or you want the character to be a noticeable blink, usually have them hold for at least 2 to 3 frames there of closed without any whites or whatever color the iris is. And I always like to have the have the eyelids, bottom and top of the eyelid not hit at the exact same frames, kind of offset it a little bit. Okay, let's go and save where we're at now. Now we can still do the fingers, ears, and this little tail, even though I probably won't see the tail. I always want to try not to cheat, try to keep myself honest. And by that I mean that if the camera isn't on this from the camera that we end up going with, I could not animate it and it wouldn't look different. But to have what I feel is kind of good animation scruples or principles is to never cheat as long as you have the time for the shot, to always throw in everything, because let's say just right now that's the camera you're going with, but what if the director that you're working for or the company that you're working for goes, you know what, I really like that, but could we just change the angle a little bit? And then if you didn't throw in that part, you have to go in and reanimate those extra parts that weren't necessarily on camera. That's why a lot of student work, or at least from my experience, students that I had classes with, so we're going to break up the movement on the tail a little bit more. Let's go the other way. Let me go down. And go 42. lot of students that I was working with, let's say it was a dialogue shot. So the shot is, let me look at the camera here, make sure I'm on camera doing this stuff. So shot is really like right here. Dialogue's all here. It's more of a facial shot with hands and everything. And so they do this, but they don't animate anything on the hips or anything in the legs or in the feet or any of that stuff. And so from the camera angle they're looking at, everything seems to be working fine and everything. But the truth is, if I'm making a lot of gestures like this, there is movement going on in my hips right now. And there's movement going on that goes all the way through my body and through my feet. And so it helps to elevate your animation to a newer level or a higher level, more realistic level, if you're putting animation in on every single part. And also, like I said, let's say for right now you're doing a shot with a company and it's just right here and we're just talking and it's just a dialogue. Like, you know what? Let's put this in a cafe and let's pan it out. So we'll use the same thing, but we just want to change the angle and pull it back a little bit. But you haven't done anything for the lower half of the body. So now you have to spend a bunch of time going through and tweaking that. And chances are, if you do that, it's going to affect the upper body as well. So then you have to go in and readjust that and everything. So it's really better as long as you have the time and, the energy to do it, to try and throw in as much as you can on your shot while it's your shot that you're working on. And not to, because like I said, if we end up going with here, there's nothing on the tail that we're going to be seeing, but we know that if we needed to come back and do this, we could do backwards and the tail would be gone. So that was kind of long-winded way to get into that. Okay, now I'm going to do fingers on the ears. So let's go ahead and grab. Make sure we're just grabbing the right things here. And I'm not sure exactly how I feel about finger controllers. Because sometimes I love it when they give you one controller per each tip of the finger. I really do. I appreciate it when they do that. But other times I like it when they give you like a universal a controller node, and then there's just more values within that node to get pretty much the same type of movement. So as long as they do one or the other, I'm usually happy when they just give you, this is your finger manipulator, so you have one attribute and that does everything at once. You can't separate the mid from the tip or vice versa. But the thing that I kind of dislike about this setup is that it's kind of harder if you don't have like a nice GUI picker or layout to make sure that you're just selecting only the parts that you want. So let me know what you guys prefer, and if you're a rigger or anything, let me know the thinking behind why one way or the other, because I'd love to know that too. And I'm just going ahead and doing a little drag in those fingers and delay as well, just to loosen them up a little bit more. I think we can loosen this middle one up even more here, so let's just take everything we have and we'll crank it up a little bit more. And let's do a little bit of movement on the thumb here, so about 12. Go ahead and drag back. Rotate Y is the way we want to go here. It's going to rotate X. No, it's kind of a mix, I guess, of rotate Y and Z here. so far, I'm really enjoying this rig. Aside from kind of the deformation and the neck pose, which again, a lot of times I create my own problems. I'm aware, and that's something that you guys got to be aware of as well. If a rig is kind of meant to bend one way and you want it to move it the other way, it's kind of your own fault. Unless you work in a studio and you're ordered to move it. Not ordered, but that's what the shop calls for. But chances are you probably could do it a different way. But you make your own problems in animating shots, so be aware, no one really to blame but yourself. Because the riggers made them a certain way, modelers modeled them a certain way, the director wants you to have a shot that's a certain way, and your job is to kind of blend all of that stuff and try and make it work and look and feel natural and create that illusion of life. So let's go ahead and it's just this one. This phone controller's kind of funky. Let's grab all of these here. Set that. Take a 0, put a 24, take a 12, put a 36, and vice versa. See if we can get a little bit more of a looser film there. Feels a little better than the other side anyway. Okay, let's go ahead and save that, and just out the ears, now I want to do a little bit of movement in the jaw here. I think I could approach this by moving the head, but if the jaw controller works well enough, I think I'll use that instead. I'm not saying I don't want to use the head, but there's enough movement through the rest of the body here that it would just be minimal amounts that we'd have to put in there to get very close to the result that is already happening right now. And since we want to, for the sake of time, I've been rambling on too much for this video and it's probably running long, so I'll try and clean up the rest of it fairly quickly here. Let's try and loosen up that jaw a little bit if we can. That feels pretty good. Probably delay it a frame just so it's not hitting all at the same time here. Okay. Got the hiccups here. And let's go ahead and do the rest of the ears. I don't think we did anything except for the tops here, so let's grab let's just do it all at once. We can delay the timing if we need to here. It's the mids that are kind of janked up here. So let's grab them. Let's even it out a little bit more here before we go any further. And I think I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna drag it up. exaggerate those and even those guys out a little more as well. Let's see here. Yeah, overall I like this guy. Definitely could spend another hour and a half polishing this up, but I think that works for today. And let's go ahead and grab everything. And push it back one frame, then go back to 48, just so that our end frame and our beginning frame have a little bit of transition between them and aren't the exact same frame. Make sure that seam as the loop goes back to the beginning a little bit better. I think we might tone down the translate X a little bit though. Feels like it's favoring one side too much, but I'm sure it's just the camera angle though. We'll just amp up that side a little bit more. Let's look at the rotate Z and make sure we do a good job balancing that out. And let's make sure, do we do the rotate Y here? Yeah. And let's take a look here, just make sure we polished everything up as good as we could. And then we'll take the rotate Y and just bring that back a little bit more. Let's see here. Let's try maybe toning down the rotate Y here a little bit. Just feels like it's pulling a little bit too much back. Let's see. Overall, yeah, I feel like that works pretty well. Getting like an upward angle too, more dynamic camera angle for this guy. Now let's turn our nerd curves off. And let's go to Let's just keep that. Let's go ahead and look at where we started. We were looking at beautiful work of Simon Bisley, and he said, Bisley? You have to let me know in the comments below. It wasn't really taught. It's all learn it so much as you just do it. And you get better the more you do it. And that's a huge thing. You have to keep trying. It doesn't matter about if you've had the best teachers or if you have the best resources with it. It's about the passion and the persistence and keeping with it, and trying to push yourself every day to get better and better and better. And chances are, if you do that, the right resources will probably, if you do that long enough and if you're good enough and if you have a little bit of luck and all the things that throw in there, but if you are good enough, usually, the resources start coming in there to help you get to even that next better level, because people start noticing your talent and the things that you can do, and they'll start wanting to help you so that you can help them, and just, you guys are amazing. I love you lots. Thanks for dealing with all of the babbling. Hopefully you guys learned something wonderful in this, or at least got inspired to go off and create your own stuff, or encouraged throughout this. But I love you lots. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you're continuing in your creative journeys. And if you're listening to this, you guys are the creatives of the future, and I believe in you lots and lots. And I love you, and we will see you for some more animation tomorrow.